Pull out the Christmas trees, dust off your ornaments, unstring those lights, put some more new light bulbs in. It's Christmas time, folks, and it's MnM Week 14. Welcome in. Your host, Kyle McCumber, and my co-host, as always, Cole Mueller. Cole, how we doing?
It's a good week of football. December. What else could we want? College football playoff rankings. Florida State, fuck them. And then outside of that, it's bowl season.
On
This
that,
is this is the week where teams become playoff teams and then they get eliminated. These
on
next
that,
2 weeks.
two things. You said December time. Yeah, December football. Is it going to be a December to remember for the two of our teams? Second thing, Florida State, not really that upset that they got left out. I think that the teams that they put in, we're going to get the two best semifinal games out of those. The only gripe I had was sucks for Georgia, too.
Yeah. Georgia has got to feel like I honestly would have liked if somehow, and I don't even love the SEC, but if somehow they got Bama and Georgia in and Texas was kicked out. Like I still think, like, okay, Florida State, like what did they do? Like if you're gonna get mad at Florida State, you can be okay. If you're okay with Florida State missing it, you can be okay with Texas missing it, in my mind.
Yeah, it's
They're
true.
they're both Power Five conference champions, and Texas has one loss.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State had no losses. I know the Jordan Travis shit, but I think there was a way that I know the strength of record and everything didn't pan out when you look at the resumes for Georgia, but I thought resume of the last 3 years for Georgia might have gotten in the minds of the college football playoff committee, and that might have got Alabama 3, Georgia 4. But I was completely, I predicted the 4 teams, but I wish it was going to be Georgia.
And even if you go to strength of schedule for Florida State, I know people keep talking about how they beat LSU, they beat Florida. LSU's in a down year. Florida's not very good either. Clemson was bad this year, and no one in the ACC was very good. And in the ACC championship, they beat a Louisville team by 7 points.
Yeah, I mean
Louisville's not very good either,
10
even though
point.
they're ranked 14.
I believe it was 10, but it was tied 3-3 late in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And so I mean it just shows you no one thought, and college football playoff committee was watching the games live together.
And that was a shitty game. And they
Yeah.
didn't want to see that in the college football playoff.
No.
Little housekeeping too on our end. If everybody's tracking, if they tuned into the last episode, I was on a spur ride the last 3 days of last week. This guy is officially a cowboy. He's a spur holder. Boom. Notch on the belt there.
Love that.
Love it.
Where's your cowboy hat?
It's coming in the mail. Only thing that I had, other two things I had for housekeeping. One, do you have a rebuttal to mustache?
I've been thinking about it. It popped into my mind on Friday and then on Sunday. And I've been asking people to think about better things too. I'm going to request a 1 week extension.
Another 1 week extension, granted.
And you might like that after our 2 weeks. You might want.
I continue to just be 500, and you have a 5-1 week.
Well, I've had 2 bad weeks, so it's finally making up for itself. But
And the only other thing I have is I still have yet to pay up my chugs for Andy. My bets on my Twitter. I don't know if anybody who listens to the podcast follows along with those things, but do you think I should do them for the show? Like record them while we're doing the show and do the chugs during the show?
yeah, do it.
All right. Well, I'll have to go get 4 beers at some point. But that'll take us into our week 1 recap. Let's dive right in. First down. I'm gonna go grab 4 beers. Talk to me about Dallas and Seattle. 41 Cowboys, Seahawks 35. Dallas squeaks one out. And is Dak an MVP front runner? Question mark. Talk to me.
He's the second. So, I mean, you got Brock Purdy, Now he's the first, which I don't know if I agree with that over Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's continuing to be in a different stratosphere from what he's been known as in the last 3 or 4 years. Like you look at, he was a middling quarterback that was just, the standard of what you want, but nothing more than a successful franchise quarterback. But I mean, right now you're looking at Dak and he's playing better than the opponent. Like right, Jalen Hurts. Everyone thought Jalen Hurts might be, a higher caliber quarterback than Dak Prescott, and it's like right now in the NFC East and even in the NFC, I put Dak number one, and then he's playing better than some of these other all-star quarterbacks that aren't really living up to the hype. But I mean, biggest other stories in this one was, Deron Bland had so much hype coming in. I mean, he still got another interception to make it 8 on the season, but which is just that's crazy for a second year, 5th round pick out of Fresno State.
Yeah,
But
he
he
had a
was
bunch of
carved up.
defensive player of the year talk going into this game. I mean, he did break the record for most pick sixes in a year, which is good, but getting torched by DK the way he did, that does not look good.
And that was the thing is, I mean, he still got his interception in the second half, but uh, DK Metcalf with 3 touchdowns. It was honestly shocking to me how well the Seahawks played. The Seahawks were incredible in that game on offense, to say the least, but against the invincible Cowboys vaunted defense at home, like they were basically unbeatable at home. And then as we're saying this going into Thursday night football, just chalking up a win for the Cowboys, the Seahawks make it a crazy good game. That was just like you never knew who was good. Like I can't believe that it was 21-20 at half, I believe. I'm not looking at anything right now, but it looked like the Cowboys played a perfect half. And Dak Prescott got that. There was a holding call when he ran it in for the touchdown to make it 24 to I believe 14. And then all of a sudden they have to get it back. They kick a field goal instead of go for a touchdown. And then the last 40 seconds of the half, Geno Smith and they get that touchdown in the very last couple plays of the half. And it was like, how the hell did the Cowboys, how are they down by 1 point? And they've been phenomenal. So
that was one of my takeaways when I watched a couple of highlights. The Seahawks looked like, because I was not available, the Seahawks looked like a team that were playing out of desperation, trying to vie for that last playoff spot, like gripping onto it with like their claws and their talons, coming out fighting against a very tough opponent.
yeah.
And if the Seahawks continue to play like this, they have potential to come back, like rebirth and get back into the playoff picture. But still have a game against the 49ers this week. And
Yeah.
the Cowboys, like you mentioned before, host the Philadelphia Eagles, which we'll get into that later, which will be fun.
Yeah. Second game we got the Chargers going to Foxborough to play the Patriots. Chargers were 6-point favorites, and I mean that was a push, but what what that was a terrible fucking game. And I mean the Chargers are just a win's a win for the Chargers at this point. I think you're not really trying to get the best first round pick. If you're LA, you're trying to string together wins as like I was saying, Brandon Staley would lose his job if he lost that game. Like I have no doubt. I thought he would get fired if they came away with a loss. So they're just trying to do whatever they can to get another win on the chalkboard. But Bailey Zappi's not it. That was my takeaway. You're trying to find whatever you can do to change things up. Bill Belichick described afterwards in the press conference that Mac Jones just wasn't developing and getting the production throughout his opportunities, and he thought that Bailey Zappi deserved an opportunity because of that. And I mean, I think that's his last opportunity. You need to get Bailey Zappi as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, unless what do they do? Will Greer or Malik Cunningham? I really don't know the quarterback situation for the Patriots right now, but it's clear that they're not going to go back to Mac Jones. That's like the bottom line.
Yeah.
This was a disgusting game. It was in the rain too. Not many heads were paying attention to it because it is two bad teams. The Chargers kind of are winning themselves out of like a good pick spot for first round draft picks. Patriots are doing a great job tanking and are doing an even better job of getting even higher and higher in the draft, now sitting firmly at the second overall pick.
No. Um, Somehow the Patriots are not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So I'd love to see that calculation, but just funny that it's week 14 now and only one team is mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and that's the Carolina Panthers.
I thought
So
they weren't mathematically eliminated because they could technically still win their division.
that was before that was before this past week where they lost. And
Okay.
but the last week when they were, I believe, 1-9, maybe they were 1-10. I think they were 1-10. They were still alive. But anyways, besides that, we got Cardinals at Steelers. This was a tough one if you're a Steelers fan because obviously playoffs you're just holding on for dear life. And you were 7-4, now you're falling. I mean, 7-5 looks like the two teams that are out of the playoffs right now. The Bills and the Texans are looking like prime to make a run. And then it's like the Browns and Steelers are holding on for what they can. And so you got 5 games left. It's going to be an interesting season. But look, going back to this game, there's 3 delays. One of them was over like an hour long. And so it kind of just ruined the whole mojo of whatever Kenny Pickett had going with, their brand new offense that was, had one firecracker success week. But my other thing I'll take away from this game is Trey McBride has been like, I watched a lot of that game. I mean, Red Zone was kind of on throughout, and then just checking in on like my phone with, the game that I thought was the most interesting. But Trey McBride, it wasn't even like average catches. They were like incredible. And I look at it, it's like 8 receptions, 89 yards.
Touchdown.
He had a couple that were called back. And
Uh,
there was another touchdown that was called back, but it was like he looks like one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And I know it's his second season. I forget the school he's out of, but he looks like a beast, and he's
and
almost like a better. Who's Cole Kmet in the Bears? He looks like a faster, more dynamic Cole
then
Kmet.
Cole Kmet. And the other thing is James Conner gets his revenge against Pittsburgh, finding the end zone 2 times for the Arizona Cardinals, fueling them to a victory. Kenny Pickett now, ankle injury, most likely out for Thursday night football. As you mentioned in the beginning of this, like to tip off this game, Pittsburgh Steelers clawing at holding on to a playoff position with the Texans and Bills firmly right behind them, waiting to pounce. This could be danger for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think what will edge them in this Thursday night game that we're going to preview later on, I just want to touch on it because we already hit the 2 teams that are going to be in the Thursday night game, Patriots, Steelers. Steelers defense will hold them in that game firmly and most likely probably win. I won't say will, but
Man, that's going to be a huge head scratcher for Steelers fan base if they lose that game. But again, it's not like they have the offense that can just. Patriots, the only thing they can hold on to is that they have a solid defense at this point. Not a great defense, but
no.
a solid defense. Going into the Colts at Tennessee Titans, Colts 31, Titans 28. The Colts cover with they were -2.5, so they beat the spread. This was a really good football game, and I honestly thought that the Titans were probably going to take this one because they impressed me on offense. It looked like their classic old run game was back, and finally Derrick Henry's getting holes and he's getting to the outside like he hasn't been able to earlier in the year. But the story was what the Colts had 2 special teams
2
blocks,
special teams touchdowns.
and right now, even with the Titans formula getting Derrick Henry 100 yards rushing, multiple touchdowns, Will Levis playing solid, not great, but solid. Like, I don't know if you saw his like fumble slash interception that he had. They called it a fumble, but it looked like an interception that went 10 yards downfield. And as soon as he threw the ball, he is running like as soon as it gets like kind of stripped from his hand
Mm-hmm.
towards the linebacker, and then like just gets the ball back from the linebacker. Like the linebacker's running with it, coughs it up with Will Levis's contact, and then Will Levis pounces on the ball like he's like a all-star safety and
Jesus.
got them another possession. Like it was an incredible little like sequence. The DeAndre
Derrick Henry did get hurt in this game, did not return, and Tajay Spears did take over the running, like full running back duties, end of fourth quarter into the overtime that they played.
really okay.
Yes.
So yeah, I missed overtime in this game. I missed the fourth quarter too. But I
The
remember looking at
Titans,
the
the
scores.
Titans easily moved the ball down the field. Then they ended up, I think they got a penalty. I don't remember if it was a holding or a false start that set them back. And then they got a few yards, were in field goal range, took the field goal. And then what do you know? Gardner Minshew, that boy, out there slinging it with his long hair and his mustache, scores a touchdown to win the game to Michael Pittman on a great
And
route. They ran that play, the one that scored the touchdown. They ran an alteration of that play, I think 3 different times before they ran it in that style, where Michael Pittman just rubbed and then like came around, and the number one primary was whoever he rubbed the corner off of, whoever came off of him. That was the first time that they took it to Michael Pittman.
and funny, he's got 16 targets. I mean, do you think Anthony Richardson's going to get his number one receiver 16 targets?
I have
And do you,
it's weird because like Anthony Richardson, like think of him mobile quarterback, like how many rushing yards is he going to get? How many like different
yeah,
boxes is he going to see?
I think he's an incredible talent, but I've always said this season, I think for this year, and I'm not saying it's good for the Colts franchise. It's not that Anthony Richardson got hurt, not for the season, but for this season, for the Colts, if you have a fan that's 105 years old, or you have someone that's YOLO and they want to see the playoffs this year, your best chance was Gardner Minshew starting over Anthony Richardson. I just think Richardson was raw, and he would make mistakes in close games where you're playing, veteran defenses. I don't think he would maybe play as well with those down the field throws.
Do you think a Colts fan is just upset? Not upset that they're winning, but upset that Anthony Richardson isn't at the helm getting this experience that he's missing out on?
Yeah, I do.
Like that's it's a catch 22 where you are winning games. I think it goes into this is Shane Steichen, right? The former
Steichen, yeah.
Steichen, he's the former Eagle. Yep. It goes a lot to say that what he's done for this team, and they are finding ways to win, which is impressive. I know that they don't play in the hardest division, but they had 7 wins is nothing to fucking shake a finger at. That's
Yeah.
impressive, especially with a roster that not everybody thought was that like elite.
And people are saying he's a prime coach of the year candidate. I know everyone loved him as his play calling and his offensive savviness, like especially with you look at the Eagles and their kind of struggles they're having with that dominant, unbelievable star-studded roster on offense. And it kind of ties back to like, wow, maybe a lot of that was Shane Steichen. So
Here, I'm gonna jump in right here, right quick. Hey Andy, first chug that I owe you during the recording of MnM Going Deep. Here we go.
don't spill it.
Ah,
That was a good one.
oh,
But going into the next game, Denver Broncos at Houston Texans. Texans take the win at home, 22-17. This looked like a playoff game. Like this was, in all intents and purposes, like it looked closer than it really was.
yeah. The
I never
Texans
saw.
easily could have blown them out
I've
if
never.
they
Yeah,
executed very well. They could have blown the Broncos out.
lots of field goals. From what I remember in this game, Russell Wilson looks like he had 3 interceptions. Uh, kind of just they lost their from the first half. They looked nothing like the hot team that was just rolling, and that offense was finally clicking again. Uh, but yeah, Texans cover. They go to 7-5. They're still on the bubble. Don't have a wild card spot yet, but that's one of those teams where I mean, you look at their remaining schedule. They got the Jets. They're over 5-point favorites in that game. Then they have the Titans. Then that Browns game's massive.
Massive game.
And they have the Titans and Colts again. So I mean,
So
the
the reason why
Browns,
they're not in the playoffs right now is if you remember, they lost to the Colts
yeah.
earlier in the year.
So that I mean, that could really come down to be like the Sunday night football game of the last week of the season, where it determines whoever wins goes to the playoffs, whoever loses doesn't. I could see Texans Colts being a play winning in or losing out type game. You have anything else on this one?
CJ Stroud, he just looks like a seasoned vet, man. And if he was given an opportunity to like go down and score to win the game, I think he honestly would have. He just looked that good. Nico Collins, with Tank Dell's injury, emerged as wide receiver one for the Texans. He was cooking Patrick
He was
Surtain.
already, in my mind, he was already wide receiver one for the Texans.
I think
And
I think I agree with you, but Tank Dell was more of the comfortable like CJ Stroud go-to guy. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I think he's obviously the more explosive as well. But Collins was already had two 50-plus yard receptions, a 52-yarder and a 59-yarder before the Tank Dell injury. Like he was already cooking. But yeah, that was a tough loss for the Texans. They're a young team. Kind of remind me of their defense is playing well too, but they kind of remind me of the Packers right now. But that's not what I was going to think at all before the year because obviously, I mean, Texans they're not a younger team than the Packers, but you think of them as a younger team just because Stroud's a rookie and Jordan Love's a 30-year rookie. But
I think also we talk a lot about offensive rookie of the year, most likely CJ Stroud, right? I think that Will Anderson of the Houston Texans has a reasonable case to be defensive rookie of the year. While watching this game, he was all over the field again, in Russell Wilson's face, causing pressure, stuffing runs in the backfield. And Javonte Williams is not a running back that's easy to take down.
yeah, I'm literally looking that up to see defensive rookie of the year and see who's the favorite right now. Who will win 23-23? Favorite is Jalen Carter. Second favorite is Devin Witherspoon. Third favorite is Will Anderson. So, but it's not even close. Like Will Anderson is far removed from Jalen Carter and Devin Witherspoon. I was gonna say Witherspoon. I didn't really follow Jalen Carter's season this year.
Who do you think has more sacks, Will Anderson or Jalen Carter?
I'm gonna go Will Anderson, but I think Jalen Carter's probably got more TFLs.
Jalen Carter has 4 defensive sacks on the season.
How many TFLs?
Hang on. Let's that TFL. Damn it, this is not giving me tackles for losses. It's just giving me tackles.
That's fine.
Yeah, I really want to know it now.
But anyways, I'll let you find that stat. We'll move to the next game.
Lions, no, but I think you are right though. The Texans are emerging as a very good team, and they're finding ways to win. Broncos, you're going to catch a loss at some point, right? That was 5 in a row that they won. Like you're going to catch a loss sooner rather than later. You're not going to go the whole year not losing.
Well, I mean, they were 1-5, so that's where there was a 1-6, but they were 1-5 and they had to fucking win. But anyways, Lions at Saints. Lions were 4-point favorites. They covered. They won 33-28 in New Orleans. This one looked like a Lions domination from the start. it was 21-0 within the first 7 minutes of the game. And people were thinking that the Lions might score 80 points, and the Saints were just pathetic. My question is, so Jameis Winston winning the game, but was he hurt? Was it because Derek Carr got hurt, or was it because Derek Carr got benched?
You
No,
didn't
he
you didn't know that Derek Carr got carted off the field?
no.
Yeah, Derek Carr got carted off the field.
So he's like that's a season ender.
I don't know if he's season ending. I haven't heard anything about that, but yes, I remember watching Derek Carr get carted off the field. And also, that's not the only person that got carted off the field. This was also a game where Alvin Kamara goes out of bounds, gets pushed out of bounds, and he falls
Oh,
and he hit
yes, I
the
saw that
he
live. I
hit
saw that
the
live.
oh, that was awful.
It was like a ball
Also,
boy.
also to clean this up, Jalen Carter, 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Will Anderson, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss.
Interesting. Well, Will Anderson wasn't a Georgia Bulldog. He was a Bama. So it's whatever. Maybe that's a SEC bias. But yeah, I mean, the Lions really, like what Dan Campbell said, they're not concerned or worried about the future of the team after losing on Thanksgiving for the 7th straight year. And now, I mean, Jared Goff looked excellent, especially in the first half.
So
They could do it.
a little known stat that I caught was the games that the Lions had been losing or were getting in trouble of losing, like the Bears game. Jared Goff had, I forget what the percentage was that he passed on, and Dan Campbell was like, nope, we're not going to throw the ball that much anymore. And this game, Jared Goff only threw the ball, I think it was like 25 times.
Yeah.
And the games that they were close of losing, like, and were turning the ball over, he was throwing it around 40 times. So they limited the amount of times that Jared Goff threw it, and the turnovers drastically dropped.
Yeah. Other thing is, like, I remember this too, because playing against him in fantasy, Cole misses the playoffs because of Sam Laporta. 9 receptions on 9 targets for 140 yards and a touchdown. And it was just like you knew the ball was going to go to Laporta. I was just, as you know, sensing he was the guy I was playing in fantasy. I also could just see how they were putting him in motion into a trip spread. And, it was just designed for him in the red zone. And he was catching everything. And Jared Goff was putting it right where he needed it. But Lions go to 9-3, really look to just take the division. And then it sucks for the Saints, who go another game back from the Falcons as the Falcons take the win, which if you're done with that game, we can transition to the Falcons game, which was
I don't really have much
pathetic.
else on there. The only other thing was Jamison Williams getting utilized by the Lions is like get him involved in the offense, and their offense will be way more explosive. Is all I was gonna say.
Yeah. Falcons in MetLife against the Jets. The Falcons were 3-point favorites. They covered the spread and win by 5, 13-8. Looked like bad weather conditions, rain throughout the game. I mean, Tim Boyle, isn't it? Falcons defense looked like the 1985 Bears. And I mean, Bud Dupree making plays, Calais Campbell. Like, it was impressive. I know AJ Terrell looked to get injured, but
Tim Boyle looked so bad they took him out for Trevor Siemian. And are you not? Did you not get that notification today that they cut Tim Boyle today?
No,
Yeah, Tim Boyle got cut today.
that sucks. As a former Packer, you hate that for him. But I don't think he was it. And Desmond Ridder had a terrible football game, and like somehow still like they take a win, and they go to 500. There was really nothing that stood out on the offense for either team. But I know Jesse Bates had that interception, and it was like every time the Jets got the ball, every time their defense put them in a good position, the Jets did nothing with it. Yeah. And like
Went
lose yards.
backwards.
Yeah, it was like sack, penalty, fumble. Like it was just what the fuck. So I don't know. It's like the Jets really have a bigger problem than a quarterback coming in there with a bad Achilles and taking them to the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
that's out of the picture.
Now they're asking Zach Wilson to return to QB1, and when asked, Zach Wilson was like,
No,
I don't know if I
no,
want to."
that tracking that wasn't what was said. I don't know. That's what Aaron Rodgers denied that report on the Pat McAfee show today and attacked the reporter that claimed that was true.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was or wasn't true.
Yeah. But if we want to move along, what we got Dolphins at Commanders. This was your lock of the week, and boy, were you right. The Dolphins, like, can someone play cover 2 or cover 3 against the fucking Dolphins? Maybe that's just too easy thinking. I'm not going to say it's going to fix you against Mike McDaniel and that offense. They're still going to go and carve you up for at least, a couple touchdowns in a game minimum. But what are you doing with playing some cover 1 man? It looked like every time you just see these cover 1 man defenses against fucking Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and Hill had like 2 60+ yard touchdowns. And like, does Ron Rivera want to lose his job ASAP so he
Yes.
can sit on his couch for the holidays
He wants
and
to
get paid
retire.
$50,000 a day doing it? Like,
Yes.
probably that, now that I think about it. But
Sounds great.
it's like, come on, man. What are you? He
Tyreek
already
Hill
knows he's
said
going
he
to
was
get fired.
offended that they played man-to-man defense against him.
And I didn't even like I didn't know that. And like, but I just remember watching like those 2 touchdowns, and I'm like, that's the easiest way to score. And you have the fastest player in the NFL, top 5 at least. And I mean, again, the running backs get involved with the Dolphins, Devin
Devon A.
Achane.
Chain back, and
Yeah,
he's
it's like
cooking.
that they're right now the 1 seed, and you like their chances against pretty much any team in the AFC. They're playing better than. They're outperforming. One team I'm like scared of that I don't really want to see is probably the Bills. But I mean, the Chiefs, you're not really worried about. I mean, the Ravens, they have a good team, but I think the Ravens compare to the Dolphins, and I think the Dolphins match up better with the Ravens than they do against a team akin to the Bills. But
That'd be an interesting matchup, to say the least. Just like the defense of the Ravens against the Dolphins' offense, that'd be a good game. I think that Dolphins, what I said last week, they beat the absolute piss out of bad teams, and that Dolphins offensive coordinator, he should be getting more looks at to become a head coach in this offseason, because he's doing a pretty good job of calling some plays. Does he call the plays, or does Mike McDaniel?
Mike McDaniel.
All right, that might be a little bit off base then. But look across the field, and Eric Bieniemy is not doing it for the Washington Commanders offense. So bad that they took Sam Howell out of this game in the end, and Jacoby Brissett finished the game.
I didn't know that, but that's
yes. Sam Howell was off.
Disappointing.
They took him out of the game, and they were like, "We're not going to risk you of injury, Sammy. Come over here. Come to the sideline, and we'll take care of you."
We'll go.
I don't know what the Washington Commanders are going to do at head coach.
They'll be fine.
Like, I don't know who they're going to go after.
Maybe they give offensive coordinator a shot. Eric Bieniemy.
You think so?
I think he's probably give him a year before you just completely change the entire system. Just take the top guy down and plug in the backup. The second coach in the running, Eric Bieniemy. But I don't know. I also don't really care who the head coach of the Washington Commanders is that much, because
you should care a little bit. They're in your conference,
but
and they are talented.
That's a 2024 problem.
That is a 2024 problem. You're not really worrying about them anymore for that last seed for the wild card. They're kind of out of it, even though they keep putting the Commanders like in the hunt in those graphics.
I don't see them in the hunt in my graphics, but And that's because I'm only looking at like
I
the five
want
and seven
I
teams.
want you to give me a graphic of who's in the hunt right now for you. Like I just want you to make it and then I'll put it in right here.
Yeah, it's fucking six teams fighting for two spots. There's no one else in the playoffs right now besides the 6 and 7 seed in the NFC, and that's the mini playoff race that I live in. I don't care about any other playoff race.
I'm in the
Jokingly,
same playoff race as you. I'm in the same
fucking
exact one, but
no,
there's
but
more
I'm
teams.
different teams, different teams. I see. I don't care about your side. There's only six teams and that I care about right now. Um, but again, besides that, Carolina at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay gets a win. One of those six teams I care about. They
Yep.
go 21-18. Mike Evans looks really good. You know, the Panthers looked like they were going to sneak a win in this one, and they figure a way to lose it. People are blaming Bryce Young, game-sealing interception at the end of the game. What was the spread? Buccaneers -5. They don't cover. But yeah, neither offense looked like really good. But I mean, the Buccaneers were efficient throughout. You know, they had ebbs and flows of like successful offense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Mike Evans looks like, you know, still a really good receiver. He goes 10th season straight, eclipses 1,000 yards.
Yep.
Chuba Hubbard, I know people like our fellow Panthers fan. He's a fan of Chuba Hubbard. He's really one of the only key bright spots of that offense right now that you're
Yeah.
really proud of. But
Mingo had 6 receptions on 10 targets. So
yeah,
rookie wide receiver starting to get a groove with Bryce Young, hopefully.
I still think Mingo's kind of just a raw. He's a traits receiver with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he's kind of got a AJ Brown, DK Metcalf body,
Mm-hmm.
but he's really he's got a lot to learn as far as a receiver. But
I don't have much on this game.
yeah, fucking let's move. 42-19, 49ers Eagles. What do you got?
Oh, my Atlanta, just 42-19. 49ers beat the absolute piss out of the Eagles. Debo Samuel reminds the world of why they call him fucking Debo with 3 touchdowns and 2 very long receiving touchdowns where he's probably still running how fast he looked, and no one from the Eagles wanted to tackle him. Brock Purdy dices up the Eagles secondary, cements himself probably in the MVP conversation just with the stats he's naturally putting up. And the San Francisco 49ers are just having a good year as well, puts himself in that conversation. McCaffrey has a little bit of a down day, but if we're calling 93 yards and a touchdown a down day for McCaffrey, that's just another day at the office for some running backs. 49ers look really good. Their defense gave Jalen Hurts a lot of problems. That's something to look at. Eagles, I think you'll be just fine. I think your team is a little tired. They have been playing teams that are getting more rest than them, which is kind of annoying because this coming week they're going to get another opponent where they are coming off. They're going to have 10 days of rest, and the Eagles are only going to have 7 days of rest, playing the Cowboys who just played on Thursday. That's
Yeah,
a tough matchup, and
I go ahead.
and I think that this game was a good test point to see how much AJ Brown and Devontae Adams, like how that split worked out, because it had been more AJ Brown usage than anything from not Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith. And Devontae Smith these last 2 games has really come back into the fold as that 1B wide receiver that we saw a year ago. I think that's huge for the Eagles offense, and getting Dallas Goedert back, I think will add another wrinkle to their offense once he's fully healthy. I think they also have to use DeAndre Swift more. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think DeAndre Swift is a very good running back, and they underutilize his abilities. Like
Yeah,
get
I just
Kenneth
think
Gainwell and Boston Scott off the field. Like they're not as good as him.
no, I think they bring different skill traits as far as like I think you look at Boston Scott and he's a good spell back. I don't think he's really someone that you have to build a package around, but 100% Kenneth Gainwell is probably a more precise route runner in better hands. DeAndre Swift, again, he's dynamic. He can catch the ball, but he's not maybe what you're looking for there. But in every third down package, I will say, um, I remember 3 weeks ago I had my updated like playoff predictions, and I'm not saying this is going to be right, but hold on, let me pull it up right here. I have the Niners. I had them beating the Eagles, which isn't like I think they were favored. A lot of people thought that, but 3 weeks ago I had this. This wasn't when they were like the hottest team in football. And I have the Eagles as the 2 seed, and I have the Eagles. I think they lose to the Cowboys this week, and so, I mean, they're
It's
going
a
to drop
shakeup.
2 games back to back, and then they'll be the 2 seed. And then, I mean, if you're a 7 seed, who would you rather play as the 2 seed? The Eagles in Philly or the Niners in San Francisco?
I wouldn't want to play either of those teams.
But who would you rather play more?
I guess maybe the Eagles because that secondary is just beat up.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Eagles have not been as dominant as you'd expect them to be to this point. Now, again, I think both teams are top 3 teams, top 4 teams in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about how much better the AFC was than the NFC. And maybe there's uh, worse teams at the bottom in the NFC,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think the NFC has like I think 3 of the best 4, maybe three of the best 5 for sure teams right now
Yeah,
are in the
Philly,
NFC.
Philly, San Francisco, and Dallas.
Yeah, and before Thanksgiving, people would be considering the Lions up there too. But I mean, I put the Lions right where the Ravens are in terms of their football team. I
Well,
still
the
think highly of the Lions.
Ravens beat the piss out of the Lions.
So you're right. That is true. I forget. I forget that. That would make me put the Ravens above them. But I just don't trust either team in the playoffs. That's what I'm kind of trying to say.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But anyways, I don't really have much on that game. You pretty much hit all points. Going to Browns at Rams. Rams were 4-point favorites. And then 36-19, that was not like that game was a lot closer than the score shows.
36-19.
Obviously, it got, inflated at the end. It was 20-19. You guys scored, had a chance to tie it, missed the extra point. What do you got?
It's the same thing as the week prior. We were in the game going into the fourth quarter, and then all the wheels fell off. Joe Flacco throws an interception when we stopped the Rams after the what should have been game tying touchdown, but Dustin Hopkins misses the extra point. We stop the Rams 3-and-out. Joe Flacco gets the ball and he throws a fucking interception to John Johnson III, who was a dog shit player for the Browns last year. We cut him, and then of course he gets that interception. All tides flip there. And then once the Rams go down and score a touchdown off that interception, the Browns go 3-and-out again, punt it. Rams go right down the field, touchdown. I think the biggest story out of this game for the Browns is that their defense was kind of exposed again. Their defense they didn't make very many stops, couldn't come up with a turnover, didn't generate much pressure against Matt Stafford. Myles Garrett had literally 0 stats, not a single tackle. Denzel Ward didn't play. I think a lot of people are buying into Denzel Ward's absence as the reason why the Browns defense has been so bad these last 2 games. I don't think it's that. I think it's our front 7 is a little bit more injured than we're indicating on the injury report, a la Myles Garrett just being non-existent. And I think Zadarius Smith is a little banged up. And we're not getting pressure. And those corners that we play man-to-man coverage on the outside with, they can't cover for 4, 5, 6 seconds at a click. They're going to get beat in those, like when it goes over that 3 to 4 second mark. And that's what happened. Matt Stafford had time to throw, and he diced us up.
So you guys go to 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams go to 500, going on a 3-game win streak since their loss to the Packers, and then I mean, right now you've got the Jaguars next week, which was kind of chalked up from both of us as a loss until Trevor Lawrence gets hurt. And now Browns go into next week as a 3-point favorite. Um,
Ew.
but I mean, realistically, I think you guys should and will go 3-2.
If you're Kevin Stefanski, Cole, I gotta ask you this: if you're Kevin Stefanski, who do you start? Joe Flacco, DTR.
Joe Flacco.
I don't. Why is Kevin Stefanski shuffling his feet at who's going to start this week? Then you
Probably
and I
because
both. You and I both watched that Rams game. He fucking actually had, as Browns fans like to quote, zip on the ball.
and
But
Amari Cooper, do you hear what Amari Cooper said in the before the game? There was like a report came out about how he was just like enamored with Joe Flacco's ball, like just how tight of a spiral and how strong of a pass he could throw.
he's throwing such nice spirals.
And I mean, here's why I think he's doing it is because he can keep it close to the vest. I mean, I'm sure inside the building in the house, they know
Mhm.
Flacco's starting, but they want the Jaguars to prepare for two completely different styles of
Yeah,
offense.
and
So
and I think also another thing that blows my mind. So this is year 4 of Kevin Stefanski. So this is his 4th year. In the last 5 years, this past weekend, the Browns threw passes for over 19 air yards. I think it was 5 times in the game. So they threw very deep passes 5 times in this past game. That's the first time in 5 years that they attempted those passes for 5 times in a game.
and I mean, it's not like Flacco's not going to make mistakes. Again, there's a reason why he came off the fucking street.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to believe that he's your best chance in the playoffs too. Like he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
So
How
we
many
have
other guys in that have that type of arm still can you just pick up off the street that have a Super Bowl pedigree and like we're called elite once in their day.
mm-hmm.
Like
So there's 5 games left in the season, right?
yeah.
The Browns have 3 home games. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards that. I'm like, okay, maybe we can make a run here because statistically, the Browns defense is the #1 defense when they play at home. When they're on the road, they are the 30th defense.
That's incredible stat. I didn't know that. The other guy, which I don't think you want to rotate another quarterback in, but RG3,
No,
you
shut
know,
up.
RG3.
No, shut up.
um,
Let me
Steve
get
Young.
let me get
Steve Young.
Emmanuel Acho too to play outside linebacker.
Yeah. All right. Next game we have Sunday Night Football. Nothing much there. Let's just go into
Just
Monday
go
Night
into Monday
Football.
Night
Yeah.
Football.
No, Packers 27, Chiefs 19. That was my lock of the week. I had the Packers, obviously. No,
I
I'm
had the
kidding.
Packers.
I'm kidding. I had the Chiefs as my lock of the week, and obviously I did that to fade them. But anyways, I will say I expected that game to go a little bit differently. I did think the Packers had a chance though, and
I thought they had a
uh,
real good chance.
it's something to be, you know, just build confidence within the Packers locker room. Chiefs, you're going to be fine. I mean, there's really you got the Bills. That's a tough game, and then you'll run the table after that. So I think Bills are really going to be hungry in that game and might come up with a win. But besides that, that's really going to make you at least, if not the 1 seed, the 2 seed. And some people still believe they will be the 1 seed after that. But I don't know. Looks like the Packers finally have their quarterback of the future. We can kind of confirm that. The Christian Watson play where he gets hurt at the end of the game, that's disheartening. I don't want to hear anything about the officials.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, Chiefs, you're gonna be all right. I think I agree with you there, Cole, that especially coming out of the bye week, Bills coming off a bye, playing the Chiefs, which has now become a rivalry, basically. Bills are gonna be hungry. So the Chiefs got to be aware here. Packers, though, they they had a recipe to beat the Chiefs in this game. And I think and one piece of that recipe or one ingredient was keep away. They kept the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands as long as they could. The Chiefs only had 2 possessions in the first half.
Yeah. And think about when we had our big plays on defense. You had
Deshaun Nixon.
3 sacks in the red zone in the first half,
Mm-hmm.
which we really had 2 possessions. We had our third possession, obviously, but you look at it and like we went like really, it was a really quality game in terms of both teams were moving the ball, and it was like wasn't terrible defense either. Uh, that 4th and 1 where Jordan Love threw it deep to Dobbs and just let it hang, and then he came down with it. That was really the turning point of the game. But uh,
That was the
I'm just,
moment where I was like, that's your guy, Cole. I told you before the game, this is gonna be Jordan Love's coming out party.
yeah, and I've always kind of known. I would say since I mean before the Steelers game, it's got to be since who'd they play before the Steelers? They played
The Rams.
no before the Rams, like the Broncos and Raiders game. Even when they came up short, I still was believing that Jordan Love was the guy because he was not the one making the mistakes. And people started to blame him because at the end of games, he wasn't coming up with the game winning throw, in the back of the end zone with the last 20 seconds of the game. But that's not many quarterbacks in this day and age, like they're not going to get that done. But slowly and slowly, Jordan Love is, moving his way up the ranks of quarterbacks in the NFL.
And there
I'm not
seems to
saying he's
be
top 10, but he's definitely like if you go up and stack people who you like more, I think you're looking at him as like a top 13, 14 quarterback in the NFL right now.
I think he might be higher than that, bud.
I don't want to do that just yet. I've literally wrote it down and like kind of like stacked up like who I'd want. But like I love Jordan Love. I think he will be a top 10 quarterback. I just don't know right now where you'd throw him. Like you got to account for the people that are injured, like Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, those guys. But
And there seems to be like a little bit of magic around your Green Bay Packers right now. And I'm only saying that because in those desperate times where like you needed a play, the play happened. Like that Romeo Dobbs catch. There was a few other things that happened that like just were absolute great plays. And there I don't magic might not be the best word. I think it's confidence now. There is
yeah,
a confidence in a young football team, and they're finding ways to win, and they're confident along the like at each other's side, basically. He's got a young wide receiver core. The secondary that you guys have out there is young as well, and they did a pretty good job of holding Travis Kelce in check, holding all the wide receivers of the Chiefs in check. And then you do have your go-to guy in Preston Smith or no Rashawn Gary.
secondary impressment. I'll give you one stat before we move that game. There's I saw this yesterday. So the Packers, Jordan Love right now has the fifth most touchdown passes in the NFL. And so he's in the top 5 in touchdown passes. The average yards for the other top 5 quarterbacks with touchdown passes, the average career receiving yards combined is over 13,500 yards for just their top 3 receivers. So their top 3 receivers have a combined average of 13,500 yards on their career yardage, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
like the Packers, their top 8 weapons combined have less than 3,000 yards receiving. Their top 8. So it's just like crazy to think. And then their top 3 have less than 1,400. So you look at like the Packers, like they're like 1/11th of the career experience and like proven, success of those other teams, and they're so young and raw, and that's why I think people are shocked at the Packers when they look at them because they came a long way from 2-5, and it's because they're so young. Many teams can't become so much better in one year, but I mean, we could easily blow these next 5 games and be talking about how we just didn't, continue to fix the roller coaster. But I mean, it's we won our most unlikely 3 games that we were supposed to lose, and we could lose the next 5. But going to the next game, Bengals at Jaguars. Jaguars 8-point favorites. All of a sudden, Browning as the backup quarterback, but I mean he was a star in Washington. So
Yeah, he's
he
sent him
comes in
up.
there and fucking Zach Taylor does everything he can do to, fucking give the receivers the ball to throw and make mistakes with it. But I know it was, at least for me, that turned my head as far as like I was going to write the Bengals off before this game even started. And they're like, how we talk about the teams in the bubble, like the Bengals are still in the bubble. And that's really the Bengals and Broncos are the end of the AFC bubble right now. And but the Bengals they're a really good team to have at the very bottom of the bubble. And if Browning can play like that every week, and I know it sucks because Trevor Lawrence with tie game and scoring position gets that bad injury. That might have been why they lost the game, but
I mean, when your quarterback throws for 32 of 37 and 2 of his incompletions are drops, that's 3. He literally had 3 incompletions.
yeah,
That's insane.
your backup quarterback
Yeah, you're back
against a really good defense.
against a good secondary too. Like the Jaguars secondary is very good.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is a very good pass rusher. What's up with the Jaguars though? That's an absolute dud to throw out there to America. Like you were saying, like yeah, well, like we were about to write off the Bengals. A lot of people probably had written off the Bengals.
I mean, they didn't play pathetically bad. It was just you have to understand the Bengals still have a really good roster. You're talking a really talented playoff team the last 2 seasons. They were built to win the Super Bowl this year, like coming in the year.
Mm.
And they're one of those top 3 teams that everyone was talking about in the AFC. You're looking at the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals. And now
This
it's
is
like week 14 and they still have the same players. It's just they haven't gotten the success. Their defense, they still have that fucking Italian Lou Anarumo or whatever the fuck his name is as their defensive coordinator. And they play good football. They got Trey Hendrickson. They got the fucking Michigan DB, like Dax Hill or whatever. Like they got star
there you go.
players. And I don't know. The Bengals I'm not writing off yet.
Yeah, keep playing like that. They'll make some noise, especially if they face off against some weaker opponents in these last few games. Jaguars got to battle back now without potentially Trevor Lawrence. So that means CJ Beathard takes the snaps now. But for everybody and not tracking, let's head into second down. And with second down, you know what that means.
It means one beer chug.
We're heading into second down. We're going to do another beer chug, beer chug, beer chug.
You get it? Did you finish it? Come on, that was slow.
Woo.
All right,
All right,
second
Thursday
down.
Night Football.
This is the best game of the year. Patriots at Steelers. If you're looking for offense, turn on your TV and make sure you're on Netflix and not Amazon Prime. But
What were you going to watch on Netflix instead of this game?
I mean, probably some fucking Christmas movie, God forbid. We're getting to the point. But no, this will be a closer game than I think people are going to expect. And I also think it'll be a boring game for 2.5, 3 quarters. And that's just my expectation of it. But if you want to watch a close football game, turn on the game at 10:30 p.m. at night, and you'll have a really close fourth quarter that will have some good really good football coaches coaching some bad teams and, methodically trying to come up with a game-winning field goal to win 13-10 or 13-12.
Yeah, I mean, over under is 30 in this game. Team total over is 30. That's a gross amount. I mean, there were some Browns games this year that were 29. So totally understand that. 2-10 Patriots visiting the 7-5 Steelers. Ooh, how the mighty have fallen. Steelers are 6-point favorites.
Steelers are 6-point favorites. Yeah.
6-point favorites to the Steelers.
I got nothing else in that game.
Yeah, I mean, let's see if Mitch Trubisky plays. Let's see how he does, right? Mitch Trubisky's fun. Mitch Trubisky versus Bailey Zappi. That's exactly what the NFL wanted to cook up.
Kenny Pickett's hurt, isn't he?
Yeah, he hurt his ankle. He had surgery today.
That's right. That's fucking right. I know. It's so many quarterback injuries now that you just kind of like they blend together. But all right. Next game, unless you got nothing else, we have the Buccaneers at Falcons, 1 p.m. game on Sunday in Atlanta. Falcons are 2.5-point favorites. This is a huge game. I would say this is a Buccaneers. Like, if you want to win the NFC South, you've got to win this game. And if you very much so can, if you win this game. But then again, like right now, the Buccaneers are looking at their schedule and do they play? No, I mean they played 3 more NFC South opponents.
Yeah, Bucks got Falcons this week, then Green Bay, Jaguars, Saints, Carolina again. I completely agree with you. If the Buccaneers really want to win the division, they have to win this game, especially losing the first one to Atlanta at home. That was the game where Desmond Ridder fumbled on the 1-yard line, 3 times?
Yeah.
He's not going to do that again, Bucks. Baker Mayfield's got to come out slinging in this game. Defense has got to stand on their heads. If you want any shot at going into the playoffs, you got to make a stand right here and set the record straight and hopefully tie it up at 6 and 7 apiece. I don't know what to expect out of the Falcons, man, because Desmond Ridder can play bad and he can play average. I feel like that's his ceiling. His ceiling is average.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he is not the guy, and the longer that they want to make him the guy, again, the happier I am. Next game we have Colts at Bengals. Colts are 1-point road favorites in Cincinnati. This is going to be a really good football game. I think this is one of those where you look at like sneakiest matchup of the week, and you look at that one, and I mean they're not two, juggernauts, but they are 2 teams that, I mean, are coming off of big wins.
And they fight.
Gardner Minshew's feeling it. Yeah, like that team plays in close games. The Colts play in very close games. And I don't think the Bengals are going to go down at home without a fight. And I don't think the Colts have a phenomenal defense either. So I think the Bengals are looking at themselves and like with their playmakers, they're going to, again, they're only 1-point underdogs. But
and Gardner Minshew has like I can't remember it off the top of my head, but Gardner Minshew has like a weird stat with him on the road where he's just awful on the road.
And I think you're right now. You're wanting the Colts, obviously, to lose this game. You're rarely, as a Browns fan, rooting for the Bengals to beat a non-division team.
I think you'll see in my picks that I'm going to do something very drastic.
Interesting. But all right, let's go to the next game. We have Jaguars at Browns. Browns 3-point home favorites. Obviously, this is tied to the Jaguars losing their star, Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick quarterback. And I mean,
they haven't announced if he's playing or not yet.
Yeah, maybe he comes back with fucking, the Aaron Rodgers treatment and he's back by fucking Sunday. But I mean, this is a massive matchup. This is a really good football game. I was saying to some other people earlier today that this is the best Sunday slate I've seen in a long time. And as we go through the matchups, it's one of those where it's like, especially the 4 p.m. slate, I like those games. I think we'll get to them, but there's a lot of playoff implications across the board.
I agree with that. The 4 p.m. slate is very good, and I don't know what I would want to watch.
I mean,
I'm
for
just gonna say it
the,
right now. Scott better be at PS Tavern, or else I will lose my shit.
I mean, that's their season. It's their season that they're fighting for right now, and that's I would say the Bills. It's a must win, but we won't get there yet. Um,
Oh no, I
next,
meant like as in with the TV situation I was going through on Sunday.
oh yes, that is another. We can save that one for next week if it happens again. Um, but yeah, do you have anything on the Browns game?
I I don't want to get my hopes up. That's one thing I'll say is I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to go into this game thinking that the Browns are gonna win. Think because Trevor Lawrence might not play. I don't want that to happen. I would like to see Joe Flacco again, and I really hope Amari Cooper is okay and ends up playing because I think that could actually be detrimental to the Browns season is the Joe Flacco Amari Cooper connection. If Amari Cooper doesn't play, Browns fans hope Cedric Tillman steps up and shows us that he is the potential number one pick he could have been if he didn't get hurt at Tennessee, because he was a stud at Tennessee. Elijah Moore, he makes plays, but I really, 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 really just want to run the ball down a goddamn team's throat. Jaguars, I'm sorry, man. You're just the next team in the way.
Do you think the Browns win?
No, I don't think I don't I'm like 40-60 win lose. 40 win, 60 lose. I think the
Okay.
Jags still have a very good team if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play. And I like Doug Peterson as a head coach.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another really good matchup. I think it's another playoff implication game. We talked about it, but
I think
um,
I think the person who missing would change a lot of things is if Denzel Ward plays.
yeah, I mean,
I
obviously,
know I said earlier he doesn't change a lot. Our front seven has to do stuff, but I think just the confidence for our secondary will do a lot if he plays.
next game we have the Texans at Jets. Texans 5.5 point road favorites in MetLife. This is a game that maybe we thought 4 weeks ago when the Jets weren't on this 5 game losing streak was going to be a really good game. But now, I mean, it's really just a Jets, can you play spoiler and can you get some type of offense generated before your coaching staff gets put on the hot seat? But um, Texans, I mean, there's this is a trap game. You've got to win this one.
Trap game, that's a good name for it, especially I don't know the Houston Texans schedule off the top of my head, but trap game with Tennessee next week and then Browns the week after. Not really a look ahead spot for the Texans, but if CJ Stroud doesn't go in there with confidence like he's played with this entire season, the Jets defense can get after him, and that could cause problems, especially if I know he doesn't throw many interceptions, but if he starts maybe fumbling or something like that, and who knows with that fucking MetLife turf.
Yeah, I know. I need a snow game too this week. But again, here's what I'll say. Like week 14, I'm saying it's like the best Sunday slate. I think it's just primed up that way near this time of the season, like early December, because all these teams still have a chance. They still have a shot. There's so many
Everybody's
teams that are right there.
everybody's gonna put their best foot forward. There's no one that's gonna be like, all right, let's pull some starters and like not get them hurt for next year or something like that at this
Yeah,
point in time.
but even that, it's like there's so many teams that are fighting for playoffs, and it causes so many games that you look at, and there's playoff implications throughout all of them, except for
Mm-hmm.
maybe like 2 or 3. And it's like it's a really impressive slate. Like, I don't know. I look at this and I'm like, every single game you can justify turning it on and watching it. Um, we got next game, Rams at Ravens, a really good game. This is one of my that I just don't see what the spread is so favoring the Baltimore, but at home, Ravens are 7-point favorites. And I think the Rams win this football game. Like I think its game should be, and maybe I just underestimate the Ravens,
I think
but
you underestimate the Ravens a little bit, and then also that they're playing at home.
I don't care about that. It's
And
Matthew
Lamar
Stafford.
Jackson has only lost to an NFC opponent one time.
Don't care about it. I truly believe the Rams have a really, I think this game is like 50-50. The Rams are a really good team and they're hot. They're like the Denver Broncos, except with a much better offense. And I
And
mean, you've
Baltimore just
witnessed,
came off a bye.
don't care. I think buys are overrated. I think buys can sometimes stymie a offensive rhythm. You know, you're clicking on all cylinders and then you kind of like lose your juice when you take a week off. So I'm not saying that the Ravens are a bad team or they're going to be bad in the playoffs. I'm just saying I think the Rams were underrated here, and this can be a really good football game. Uh, unless you have anything on that, we'll go to the next one.
I'm interested in that game to see how the Ravens respond out of their bye week because of exactly what you were just saying, but the opposite. The last time we saw the Ravens, they played the Chargers on in that Monday night game, and or was it Sunday night? It was either Monday or Sunday night, and the Ravens offense did not look as cohesive without Mark Andrews. And now this will be the second game with Mark Andrews gone. Not done for the season, apparently. Potential to come back, but Ravens got to win down the stretch in order to clinch the number one seed and even hang on to the AFC North title, even though they do have a 2-game lead of the Steelers and Browns now. Rams, they're hot right now, 3 in a row. Now they travel east. Let's see what you got on the road against a potential number one seed in the playoffs on the opposite conference. Matt
Yeah,
Stafford could Matt Stafford could come out slinging.
we got next game, the Lions at Bears. Lions are on the road in Chicago at Soldier Field, and Lions are only 3-point favorites. But I mean, last time they played, it was a competitive game that really the Bears should have came out on top. Uh, Vegas looks to favor the Bears more in terms of like they think they're a competitive football team and can play competitive games. But I mean, that's another game where playoff implications. I mean, really only for the Lions, but that game matters. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
And
But
it matters to Chicago too. It might not matter to the whole fucking fan base, in playoffs and everything like that, but it matters for like Justin Fields showing the Chicago franchise that he is their starting quarterback of the future. It matters to Matt Eberflus, the coach of the Chicago Bears, because he's going to coach for his job. Even though almost everybody agrees he should not be the coach next year, maybe step down and just become the defensive coordinator because he has done a pretty good job of rallying that unit into form after the whole defensive coordinator steps away because FBI's after him and shit. And you're exactly right. The Lions want to cement themselves as a potential top seed of the NFC with the Cowboys, Eagles, 49ers. And it'll be the first time that the Lions won would win the division in how many years?
I mean, uh, but next game, Panthers at Saints. Saints at home, 4.5-point favorites. This is a must win for the Saints. I think it's a trap game. The Panthers are due for a win. They're 1-11. They're not that bad of a team. There are worse. There are much worse 1-11 rosters than
I could agree
than
with that.
the Carolina Panthers. I think the Panthers are a all-world 1-11 football team that we have seen in the NFL. Like they were in history, they're probably the best 1-11 team I've ever seen.
Yeah. Trying to think of 111 teams. Um,
They're they're gonna win. They're gonna win this football game.
if Jameis Winston plays, I would tune into this game because it would make it way more entertaining to see him throw 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and one of them be a pick six.
How fucking cool would it be if I was still in the fantasy playoffs and now I have Taysom Hill as my tight end, who would probably get half the quarterback snaps, and I would have Dak Prescott as my quarterback. Like I would have easily won in the playoffs. Now that I think about it, but regardless, I don't care. I would have 2 starting quarterbacks. Don't care. That'll be an entertaining game. You know, Panthers are playing on house money now. Uh, who who knows? We got the fucking new head coach. You know, the interim guy, Frank Reich firing.
Oh, yeah, but last
That's
week
sad.
them
Shit.
last week them losing hurt that stat you
I
gave
know.
early in the
Doesn't
year.
matter. Vikings at Raiders start the first 4 p.m. game slate. Both teams. I mean, the Raiders. I'm gonna say they're just out of the bubble. You know, they're like the ones that are like holding on to the bubble, like they're like hugging it, and they're not in the bubble. But
The Vikings are
somehow,
3-point favorites.
somehow, if the bubble explodes, maybe they find their way back into a new bubble. But the Vikings are 3-point favorites on the road in Las Vegas. Uh, Vikings are coming off a bye. They looked really good. Who did they play? Who did they play
Before,
to?
when they played the Bears and Josh Dobbs threw like 3 interceptions and looked terrible and looked like Joe Webb after I mentioned
No,
Joe Webb.
not not that. But what I'm trying to say is the early Josh Dobbs. Now that they're not committed to him,
When they beat Arthur Smith
Nick
and the
Mullins.
Falcons.
Nick Mullins gonna play.
No, they're sticking with
There's.
Josh Dobbs.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
I might be right on this because I know that fucking what's his face said he's not committing to any quarterback. He said
I
Nick
do
Mullins is
remember that.
healthy. He said Nick Mullins is healthy again. Kevin O'Connell said that. You got Jaron Hall, who they really like out of BYU, the rookie. I think he's bad. So I would like them to start Jaron Hall. But Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins worry me the most as a Packers fan. And we'll see which one they start. And I mean, the Raiders are one of those teams like you don't really see that how they like they have star players. And I mean, I think they can play close football games. I think this is a 60-40 that the Vikings win.
Yeah, the Raiders got a shot of juice when Antonio Pierce took over. A little bit of that mojo has kind of disappeared with, a loss after 2 wins to the Dolphins and then going on a bye, kind of get forgotten about. Both teams coming out of a bye. Interesting to see them go against one another. 2 middle of the pack teams that are trying to make noise into the playoffs. As you say, the Raiders are grasping onto the bubble. This could be the game that pops the bubble for them, or it could be the game that pops the bubble for the Vikings. Who knows?
Yeah. We have I don't think this is a must win for the Vikings, but I see what you mean. Then we have the Seahawks at 49ers. 49ers, the hottest team in football at home. Massive game for the Seahawks. 49ers are 10.5 point favorites. I think that's a massive spread. I don't know if that's necessarily something I think will happen, but I don't know. What do you got in this one?
It's put up or shut up time right now, Seahawks. You want to get a shot in the playoffs, you got to knock off your probably eventual divisional champs. And you got to do it in their own place. You want a shot at being the 7th, 6th seed in the playoffs in the NFC, you got to win this game. After this, you have a little bit lighter of a schedule, but you got to at least win this game to have potential, man. That's what I'm saying. This is another one of desperation. You saw them play with desperation against Dallas. Maybe they call out more stops in this one. Niners, they're just going to try and keep grooving and then end the Seahawks season. That's what they're going to try and do.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like teams don't want to see an opponent for the third time in the playoffs. So if you can end their season early, you're going to fucking take that chance.
No, I agree. I think it's a better game though than a 10.5 point spread. Uh, Bills at Chiefs. Chiefs are 2.5 point favorites. This is a must-win game for the Buffalo Bills. I think they know it. Uh, I think they're ready for it though. I think this is a good time to have to play the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs are a really good team. But I mean, right now it's like I think this is a 50-50 game, a coin flip on who you'd pick. And the Bills are the one of the best 6-6 teams you'll see, you know,
It's a
again.
2.5 point spread because they're playing in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
And then
And
if you think back last year, the Bills did beat them in Arrowhead. Bills get a bye week and now have to go play them. I would, you said coin flip. I would lean a little bit towards Buffalo. They did look good against the Eagles. They got stuff together against the Jets. Now they had a full week of practice with Joe Brady now as the offensive coordinator because they did let go of Ken Dorsey. Maybe he makes some changes. Maybe he implements different things. Makes it simpler for Josh Allen. Well, I'd be a little bit more towards the Bills, and that's me even as a Browns fan saying like shit. I kind of don't want the Bills to win.
yeah, no, I am towards the Bills in this game too. Next game, Broncos at Chargers. Broncos are 3-point underdogs going into LA. This is a must-win game for the Broncos. I think if they lose again, like all these 6-6 teams in the AFC, if they get their seventh loss, I think they're out. Because you look at the Browns and the Steelers at 7-5, and you guys are like at worst, I think you guys are going to go 10-7, and I think these teams that are 6-6, they have to stay right now at least at 7-6. Like they can't go to under 500 and try to think they have a shot. But can the Broncos rebound after that loss to the Texans, Chargers? They just had a tough, gritty 6-point win. Good defense, you can say, but
Great defense. Pitched a shutout.
I mean, this might be a similar type game. This might be like a 16-13 game,
Could be.
and you don't know, but I think it'll be a good one.
I think it'll be a good game too. It's a division opponents. They know each other. Throw out the record books. Yada yada yada. It's just one of those things where like the Chargers are never that good. I don't know. They do get the fortune of playing this one at home. But I got to think that a Sean Payton coached Denver team that is now on the cusp of playoffs, suffering a kind of gut-wrenching loss to the Houston Texans that could ultimately decide your future, they're going to come ready to play.
Yeah, I think I probably have the Broncos in this one, but I mean, it's going to be a toss-up. Next game, Eagles at Cowboys. Cowboys are 3.5 point favorites. That comes off of the Eagles' disappointing loss at home against the number 2 seed 49ers. And now the Cowboys, they can, I don't know, does this make them the 1 seed with the win? Or does this tie thing? I mean, when they get this tiebreaker, this won't make them the 1 seed, but does this make them the 2 seed and make the I'm curious if the Eagles fall to a wild card with a loss. Um, I'm gonna
No,
hunch with
they
no. I'm gonna
uh,
assume no, but because I think it would become a much bigger game at that point. But I do know that with a loss, this obviously puts the Niners in the 1 seed and the
yes.
Eagles fall to the 2. Um, but yeah, this is a massive game for the Cowboys. If they want to win the division, this is the game they got to win.
If they
If
want to,
if
yeah. If they want
if
to
they
win
want
it
to win the division, if they're not like this is their, do they want to have a home playoff game or not this season? And so,
and a potential bye, the 49ers have to play the Ravens, which I know you're not a big fan of the Ravens, but I think that's
no,
going to be a tougher matchup than that. Than
I think any of the best teams in the NFL could still lose one more game with
Mhm.
5 weeks left. I think it's possible, no matter how easy the schedule. Um,
Big
but
game. I think this is a game where we were talking earlier when we did the review of Dallas, Seattle, Dak being an MVP candidate. This is a game where Dak would have to step up, show he is an MVP, and take home the win. Dallas smacks teams at home. When Dallas is at home, they are a scary opponent. And they have to be thinking that, well, have to know that playing this game, one, to win, two, if they want home field advantage and be the scariest Dallas that they can be, they want home field. And they have to win this game in order to get it.
no, yeah, it's a big game.
Make all roads point to Dallas.
It's like nice that you have in 1 week you have Bills, Chiefs, and Eagles, Cowboys. It's like two of the premier matchups in the NFL.
That's
Uh,
yeah, and that Seahawks 49ers game is nice too.
yeah, Seahawks, 49ers, not to mention, I mean, there's other ones, but we got Packers at Giants on Monday Night Football. Packers are 6.5 point favorites on the road in MetLife. Two Monday Night Football games, but we'll start with this one. Uh,
You got to
what do
keep
you got?
rolling if you're the Packers. Got to keep rolling.
This is, I mean, you can call this a trap game, but I honestly think the Packers are too young of a team for them to just, hear trap game. They're too, I don't think they've arrived. I don't think they're going to have that mindset. Like I know Matt LaFleur talked about it, but again, I will say like the no game in the NFL is a gimme. And we've seen that with some of the best teams falling off and some of the games we're just shocked with the outcomes of the game. This wouldn't shock me if this is a really tight game or the Giants just dominate. Like Packers offensive line is not a first class, proven unit. And on defense, we have our hiccups. Like we're right now, we're the ninth best scoring defense, but we are 23rd in running defense efficiency. So we're the 23rd best run defense. And I mean, the Giants can run the football. They can, with play action, like they can make things work with DeVito. But I will say the Giants' defensive front is scary at times. They have that rookie out of Florida State, Deontay Banks, a corner, who's kind of a baller right now. They have players on defensive side of the ball, and they were a playoff team last year. I'm not trying to get in my head. I'm just saying they can make this game a lot closer than we think it's going to be. Just because the Packers beat a couple of good teams, I just think that shows the the lack of disparity between the best and worst teams in the league. It's not that far apart, but yeah, hopefully, I think it'll be a pretty decent game.
I think it'll be a lot better than we think. Giants are coming out of a bye too. Like that's
Yeah,
the well rested Tommy DeVito gets a little bit more into the playbook, I guess. I don't know. I
yeah,
think that's the tipping of the scale is Tommy DeVito is going to continue to be the quarterback of the New York Giants going forward right now. And I think that's where this 6.5 point spread comes from is just Tommy. Jordan Love, man, this is another coming out party for you. Three in a row, three prime time games to show me what you got. Comes out on Thanksgiving, balls against the Lions, comes out following Sunday night against the Chiefs, the Super Bowl favorite probably, and absolutely just stuns Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in front of Taylor Swift, and now gets a Monday night game against the New York Giants in MetLife to show the world again Jordan Love is here to stay as the Green Bay Packers quarterback.
Two young quarterbacks in the NFC hold this
Tom,
record. Hold this
Tommy
record.
DeVito and Jordan Love, two
No,
young quarterbacks.
that's not what I'm talking about. Two young quarterbacks in the NFC right now hold this record of the only quarterbacks in NFL history to have 4 3-touchdown games in their first 12 starts.
Well, one's
Jordan,
Jordan Love
Jordan Love
and
and Brock
Brock
Purdy.
Purdy.
Yeah. That's just a fun little stat, The only two quarterbacks in NFL history to have that. But again, that's Brock Purdy has an all-star supporting cast. Jordan Love has a bunch of 5th round, 3rd round, 7th round undrafted rookie misfits, but they're not misfits anymore. They're talented young pieces.
They're here to play. They're here to play. Dontavian Wicks.
My guy, he's my favorite.
Malik Heath.
Malik Heath. Hey, he was the undrafted Ole Miss receiver that everyone wanted. Christian or Mingo, fucking Jonathan Mingo, the receiver for fucking Panthers. He was a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted him, the Ole Miss receiver, and then no one wanted Malik Heath, who had more touchdowns and yards in the SEC last season. But anyways, that's besides the point. Titans at Dolphins last game of Monday night, or the other game on Monday Night Football last game of Week 14. Dolphins 13-point favorites.
13. Dolphins love to kill bad teams. I'm sorry, Will Levis. Prepare to get destroyed by the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, I agree. I got nothing else on this. Titans maybe make it interesting with a few turnovers and some pressure on Tua, and Will Levis plays out of his fucking mind. With that being said,
that's what you got to look for in this one.
3rd down, locks, upsets. You go 2-0. So
I went 2-0.
You got your Dolphins. You got your win. Obviously, they win 45-15 as your lock. The Broncos. Oh, I'm sorry. You got your loss. Never mind. So the Broncos. My bad. I totally thought you did, but I went 0-2. I had the Chiefs as my lock.
You're upset with the Eagles.
And my Eagles, not my Eagles, but the Eagles were my upset. And that obviously didn't happen.
Oh wait, wait, we already did. It's 3rd down. Getting into 3rd down, another beer jug.
It's good work.
Put in work.
All right, so right now in the season, I'm 11-2 with locks and 5-8 on upsets. You are now 8-5 with locks and 5-8 on upsets. So we're both 5-8 on upsets.
500, baby.
And not 500. That's not 500. That's below 500, but you are 500.
Yeah, across the board.
Yeah, you're 13-13. I am 16-10. But with that, my lock, I got the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins beat the Titans, and then my upset, I have the Bengals over the Colts. What do you got?
Lock of the week. Did you say Dolphins over the Colts?
I said Dolphins over the Titans.
Oh. Dolphins over the Titans.
All right, what's your
Going
upset?
Fins, baby. Going Fins. Fins up.
Damn right.
What's your
upset? I already said it. My upset's the Bengals.
Oh, that's what you meant when you mentioned the Colts. Okay, your upset's the Bengals. I'm writing it down. I'm sorry. Second one, my upset. It's a dicey one. Going with the Chicago Bears, baby.
That's a terrible take. I feel like there's no one. But
you don't think there's a way that
No, there's a way. I just don't think that's the move. But hey, I've been wrong. Okay, fourth down. My best matchup of the week was the 49ers Eagles. Your best matchup was 49ers Eagles. And thank you, San Francisco, for making that game not as fun, although it was still good to watch the Eagles lose. The
My fantasy
sneakiest
team won
matchup.
because of that one.
Yeah, I'm glad I lost because of that one. Sneakiest game. Lions Saints was my pick,
That was a
and
good
that
game.
turned out to be a really good game. Not in the first quarter. And then your sneakiest was Chiefs Packers, and that was a really good game.
Came down to
So
the wire.
yeah, so I mean, you had a really bad best and sneakiest last week and came back. I mean, you had Cardinals, Rams, and 49ers Seahawks, but guess what? You're back. Um, okay. My best matchup is Eagles Cowboys. It's a tough one. I wanted to put Bills Chiefs, but I just think Eagles Cowboys, there's a little bit more at stake in terms of, two playoff Super Bowl contenders. And then sneakiest matchup for me, I have Rams Ravens. I think
Rams
that game's
Ravens.
I think that's a very good football game.
Hmm.
Very close.
I'll take the one that you didn't pick, and I'll do Chiefs Bills, and that's most likely because you're an NFC guy, I'm an AFC guy. I'll be tuning into that one to make sure to see what comes out of it. And I also just love the two quarterbacks in that game. I know that Dak and Jalen are playing very good too in your game, but I love watching Mahomes, even though I kind of hate his act that he puts on. Like that one thing in the Packers game, like the other night, where it was towards the end of the game and the fumble happened that they ended up calling back with Rashi Rice, and Isaiah Pacheco punched whoever that was, and the flag was on the ground, and Patrick Mahomes was like sitting there like this, like covering his mouth, like pointing at the flag, thinking that it was on the Packers, so the play was going to be called back anyways. They called it back because it wasn't a fumble, but the flag was for fucking your dude punching a player on the opposing team, bro. Like, get over
Yeah.
yourself. I do like Josh Allen though. That is super fun. He's super fun to watch. My sneakiest matchup. Hmm. You mean Detroit, Chicago?
I mean, you might as well if Chicago ends up being your lock or your upset of the week.
Yeah,
Um,
I also just think that I think that that game was very close the first time around. Chicago knows how to play defense against Detroit. Now, Chicago being at home, potential for an upset. That's why I picked it. And the other thing is, I think that it'll be a much closer, nitty gritty game
yeah. All
at
right.
Soldier Field.
Pick six. I go 5-1. You went 3-3. That moves us to last week. We were at tied at 37, 34, and 1. So that puts me at 5-1 to 42, 35, and 1. And you go to 40, 37, and 1. So we're both above 500. I just have a 2-game lead on you going into week 14. My first pick, six. I have the Bucks plus 2.5 in Atlanta.
Bucks plus 2.5. Okay, first pick of the week for me. Pittsburgh -6, baby.
Steelers, 6. My next pick, I have Rams plus 7 in Baltimore.
Rams +7. Cole looking like he's picking some underdogs here. My second pick will be the Indianapolis Colts -1.
Third pick, I have the Lions -3.
Lions -3. Going against me. No, I'm just kidding. Um, my third pick, I will take the Houston Texans against the New York Jets -5.5.
And then my fourth pick, I have the Vikings -3 at Raiders.
Ooh, your fourth pick is a fade of mine. So you're -3. I've got the Raiders +3.
And then I have the Seahawks plus 10.5 at the Niners.
Ooh, you're just looking for them to cover, aren't you?
Oh yeah. But I think they can win.
I think they can win too. They play a good game. They play as hard as they did against Dallas. That will be a much closer game than it was on Thanksgiving. I will take the Buffalo Bills +2.5 against the Kansas City Chiefs.
My last game, I have the Giants plus 6.5 against
Interesting.
the Packers.
My last game, I have the Denver Broncos +3 against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay, now I have to ask, did you pick every pick to fade that teams for your Browns hope? And then does that have anything to do with my 6 NFC picks to not fade them? I think there's a little bit of like commonality there where I think I kind of started it like your
I made
third pick.
mine way more obvious. When you were doing yours, I couldn't tell that you were doing that. For me, I made it super obvious.
I think like your third pick, I could tell like both of us were going down the line picking against the teams we.
I only figured out when you picked the Vikings and I picked the Raiders.
But then okay, so I mean, there you go. Kyle's got all the other 6 contenders in the bunch fighting with the Browns. He's got them getting a win or
Yeah,
at least
covering the
covering, and then
spread.
I have 6 NFC teams that, and I think these were good picks too. I'm not just saying it. But who's got the juice, Kyle? Who do you got?
Who's got the juice of the week? I was gonna say Dak Prescott, man. Dak Prescott threw for 299 yards, 3 passing touchdowns against the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. That comes off of a 331-yard performance for 4 touchdowns against the Washington Commanders the week before on Thanksgiving. He plays Philadelphia this week, a bitter rival of the Cowboys, and Dak is right there in the MVP conversation. And everybody likes to poke fun at Dak. Everybody likes to make fun of Dak. Dak is kind of turned the page and made it a little bit different this year. And the Cowboys might be able to ride his tuchus all the way to a number 1 seed in the NFC, potentially.
Yeah, I'll go and say I had Jack Prescott as the last week's who's got the juice.
I know.
But I'll say this: Puka Nakua,
Oh yeah, he had a good
rookie,
game.
rookie. I mean, he only had 4 catches, but he eclipsed 100 yards again. He's got another touchdown. He literally had the juice on that 70-yard catch and run for the touchdown, but I didn't think he had the speed in him. He didn't show that in college, but at BYU. But here's interesting: in 12 games, he's one of it's either 5 or 6 receivers in NFL history to reach 1,000 yards in his first 12 games as a rookie. So another kind of like exciting stat as a Rams fan to have so many weapons on offense when you thought it was going to be a down year. But that's all I got.
Yeah, and then to just kind of rally off the point you just made, to have Kyron Williams like emerge as a solid number 1 running back for the Rams, that is an excellent thing to have. Puka Nakua also had some good rushing yards in that game against the Cleveland Browns. I would only know because I paid so close attention to that game. But Cole, do you have any final thoughts for us tonight?
I don't.
Nothing. Last final thoughts. We're closing down MnM deep right here, and this is the final beer chug that I know I owe my friend Andy.
3, 2, 1, 0. Look at that.
Almost made me choke. But that's another episode of MnM Deep, y'all. We are getting more fans as we go along, and it is a great time to start tuning in and see this debauchery of a podcast come together as a unit, as we like to call. I am Kyle McCumber. That's my co-host Cole Mueller, and we will catch you next week for another episode of MnM Going Deep. And as always, go Browns.